In this video, I'm going to give you my final picks for UFC Vegas 69. I'm going to go over DraftKings strategy, show you how to get some free money to play fantasy this week, and we're going to build some lineups, so make sure you watch until the end. You can call me Kunath. Let's make some money this week. The card that we're looking at right now has the industry in shambles. It seems like everybody's scared. They're shaking in their boots. They don't know what to do. A lot of these fights can go either way. A lot of these fights could be greasy. A lot of these fights are relatively low level when it comes to UFC standards. But you know what? We thrive in situations like this, and we're going to thrive again. 11 fights. Nobody's canceled yet, which means we can get right into the value plays. These are plays at 8,000 and below. These are plays that you're going to need to put in your DraftKings lineups to make everything work salary-wise. And if you haven't picked up on it by now, the color of the day is red.
Spell red.
L-S-T-E-R.
The first play that we're going to consider under 8,000 this week is going to be Jamal Emmers at 7,900. I do think that Jamal Emmers is going to get a little bit of respect when it comes to your DraftKings games. I do think that a lot of people are going to be on Askhabov, but I think a good amount of people will come to Emmers as well. And that's simply because the line was off and a lot of money's come in on Jamal Emmers, and it's for good reason. He's got better experience, he's got ways to win this fight, and he might be able to push this kid to a place that he's never been before. Now, Jamal Emmers makes some questionable decisions in there, puts himself in poor positions in there, but if he fights a good game plan this week, he has all the tools to win this fight and look good doing it. I could see him getting takedowns of his own. I could see him winning the striking battle on the feet just by being steadier and being more fundamentally sound. Askhabov's going to like to throw a lot of high kicks, a lot of crazy technique, looking to wow the people in attendance at the Apex, specifically Dana. But I don't think that Jamal Emmers could be slept on this week. I think Jamal Emmers is talented. He's had a tough go at it. This is a guy that was narrowly beating Giga Chikadze. Some people thought that he won that fight, and if he won that fight, imagine what that win would look like now. We'd have a much different conversation if one judge gave him a round when it comes to Jamal Emmers. So think about that as you're building lineups this week. Not somebody who's a must play, because if he wins, I do think it's by decision. I don't know if he's going to land 5 takedowns, over 100 strikes, and nearly 7 minutes of control time. So I think his ceiling is a bit limited, but I do think that Jamal Emmers is one of the better plays below 8,000 this week. My favorite play below 8,000 is our main event underdog in Erin Blanchfield. If you haven't watched the full card breakdown from earlier in the week, that's going to be linked right in the top of the description. We got into why we like Erin Blanchfield, but just to summarize it for you a little bit, she's going to be able to take Jessica Andrade down. Not only will she take her down, but if she gets to that crucifix position like she did against Molly McCann, it's goodnight Irene, or in this case, goodnight Andrade. And that's the same position we saw Valentina Shevchenko get into when she fought Andrade and ultimately finished her in the second round. Once she had that crucifix, Andrade couldn't move. On the feet, I know it's a bit of a foregone conclusion that Erin Blanchfield gets knocked out if she stands too long with Andrade, but don't forget that Erin Blanchfield has that sneaky high kick. Andrade is short, she likes to crash the pocket, she likes to move forward, she can walk into one of those high kicks because she's going to be putting the pressure on. That's how she fights, and she also knows that she can't be moving backward here or else Erin Blanchfield's going to have a ton of success. She's going to force Erin Blanchfield to fight on the back foot if Erin Blanchfield doesn't get her down right away. If that's the case, that high kick could come up, land, and I'm not saying it's going to knock her out, but it could make her second guess when she's closing the distance, and just a split second is all that Erin Blanchfield needs to grab that body lock, get that trip, get on top, get inside control, get in the crucifix position, and end this fight. Give me Erin Blanchfield, very solid value here, and if she does win, it's going to be inside the distance. Vegas has the over-under set at 2.5 rounds in a 5-round fight. The writing is on the wall. Another play you have to consider below 8,000 this week is Jim Miller, who is probably going to be one of the most attractive underdogs, one of the most popular underdogs on DraftKings in most of your contests. And it's for good reason. If Jim Miller wins, it's because he's finishing the fight. And Jim Miller doesn't look that imposing, but Jim Miller knows how to get guys out of there. The hands are clean, the jiu-jitsu is slick, he's in a very winnable fight this week against Alex Hernandez. I still think that Alex Hernandez wins. He's still my pick for the week, but there's some value here on Jim Miller, considering how many points he's going to score if he wins. Just look at his last 3 wins, 89, 100, 103. If he scores around those numbers this week, he's going to show up on the optimal lineup for sure. So Jim Miller, solid value given his win condition, given how many points he could score, given the matchup. And the last guy that we're going to look at is another person who I don't think is going to win. I don't see Jordan Wright winning this fight, but I do see that if he does win this fight, it's going to be early. It's going to be a knockout. He's going to score a knockdown, and he's going to score well over 100 DraftKings points. You'll see something similar to the points he scored against Jamie Pickett. He comes out like a bat out of hell, lands a big shot, puts Pauga down, follows up with ground and pound. The ref steps in, stops it. And if you are a Jordan Jordan Wright believer, if you're a Jordan Wright truther, then this is one of the best, if not the best, buy low spot that you've had on him, maybe in his entire UFC run. When you look at the guys that he's lost to in his last 5 fights, Buckley knocks him out, no one's surprised by that. Bruno Silva knocks him out, no one's surprised by that. Marc-Andre Barriault finishing you in the first round is nasty work, I'll admit. That's not something that looks great on the record, but Marc-Andre Barriault was ultimately able to get a guillotine because Jordan Wright fed him his neck. And then Dusko Todorovic, he has finishing upside, he finishes Jordan Wright. These are guys you can expect to beat Jordan Wright. But the jury is still very much out on Zach Pauga. We talked about this last week with Tyson Pedro. Jury's still out on Tyson Pedro. We're going to go with Modestas Bukauskas because Tyson Pedro, we don't know yet. I feel similarly to Zach Pauga. We still don't know how good or how bad this guy really is. But I will say that I do think that given his training situation, coming down from heavyweight, the matchup that he has this week, Zach Pauga should win. But again, Jordan Wright, very good value down at 7,000, one of the cheapest guys on the slate and some of the highest knockout upside on the slate, regardless of price. And my last value play, I failed to mention Josh Parisian. So I do think that Josh Parisian has a real chance of winning this week. And I think that Josh Parisian is going to end up in your cash game lineups. And I think you can get real creative with that fight. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in just a second. But if he's able to get on top at any point in this fight, I think it's over for Jamal Pogues. I do think that he's going to be able to keep up with the volume of Pogues. I think he's going to land heavy shots on the feet when he does let his hands go. Josh Parisian, like we talked about earlier in the week, the dude can dig deep. Jamal Pogues isn't a one-shot knockout power kind of guy. Josh Parisian's going to be there, and he's going to stay in his face from the opening bell all the way to the final whistle. So if he just keeps working, and he breaks Jamal Pogues, who's trying to make a statement in his UFC debut, I do think that there's a real chance that he wins here. And you got to think, for Jamal Pogues, 2 fights on Contender Series before he got his contract. He's looking to make something happen this week. The pressure's on, young man. For some people, that pressure makes diamonds. For others, that makes them gas out. So we're going to see what happens with Jamal Pogues this week. But I do like Josh Parisian. He's one of my favorite plays below 8,000. He could lose, but I don't think that he's going to get smoked early. I do think that he's going to put himself in a position to win from round 1 all the way to round 3. And those are the value plays of the week. Those are the 5 that I like. There are 3 of them that I've picked to win. There are 2 of them that I don't think are going to win, but given the way that they'll win, they'll score a lot of points. There's value built into the price. But when you look at the way that DraftKings has done the salary this week, it's tight. It's really tight. So you're going to need 2 of these people, maybe 3 of these people to get it done this week. And who knows? Again, you've got guys like, but these are the 5 underdogs that would be in my pool. And if you're making a lot of lineups this week, allocating some exposure across all 5 doesn't look like a bad idea. Now we can use these to start building some lineups. We start with cash game lineups as always, but before we do, I only ask you once per video. Really only once. It's not too much. I'm not too pushy with it. But if you don't mind, like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment something for the algorithm, because when you comment, I don't even know why I'm telling you this. You know how the algorithm works. Now for our cash games this week, what do we do? Well, I don't think that you stack the main event. I think the main event ends inside the first 2 rounds, whether it's an Andrade knockout, whether it's a TKO or submission from Erin Blanchfield. I don't see that going the distance. When you look at Andrade coming in on short notice after just fighting, Erin Blanchfield taking a huge step up in competition, not only from a technical standpoint, but from an experience standpoint and a dangerous standpoint as well. Jessica Andrade is bar none the most dangerous woman she's fought, and she probably will be the most dangerous woman she ever fights until she fights Valentina Shevchenko, realistically. But I don't want to abandon the idea of stacking, because I do think that there is a very stackable fight here taking place at heavyweight this week with Jamal Pogues and Josh Parisian. I say that because the pace that these guys are going to fight at, the amount of strikes that they're going to throw, as long as one of them isn't coming with a grappling heavy game plan, I think the other could score a whole lot of points. For example, Josh Parisian, he lost to Parker Porter in his debut. He almost scored 50 DraftKings points. And that's without any takedowns, with less than 30 seconds of control time. That's all hands, baby, and letting him go. He could totally do that this week and lose and still score around 48, 50 DraftKings points. And that puts you in a really good spot, because Jamal Pogues gets 30 for the decision win if we do have a fight that goes the distance, plus the points that he'll accumulate along the way, and vice versa. If Josh Parisian goes out there and wins a decision or a split decision, it's back and forth. Both guys land a lot of strikes. You understand what I'm telling you here. So we can still balance out the salary a little bit, have 84.50 left over as always. And now we can look at some of the punt plays of the week that make sense. And honestly, I don't think that Lina Lansburg is a terrible punt. She's down at 6,700. Let's look at her last couple of losses. Similar to Josh Parisian. 35 points against Pannie Kianzad, 42 points against Carol Hosa. I think that Mayra Bueno Silva is probably going to submit her, but if she doesn't and she decides let me brawl like she normally does, then you're looking at a situation where Lina Lansburg has a safe scoring floor in a loss. She's only 6,700, and now your remaining salary is over 9,000 per fighter. You could start to get some of these more expensive plays, some of these premium options, and I think that makes a ton of sense. What I'd look to do is probably grab somebody like Carpenter. I'd probably grab AJ Fletcher, 8,700 left over. This is when I would go with Nazim Sadykhov this week at 8,600. You left 100 salary left over, but you've got big favorite, a guaranteed winner in the Parisian Pogues fight. And then you've got Sadykhov, who's also a favorite, who I expect to go out there and win and use his wrestling to do so. Another way you can attack this is if you went with William Knight, for example, and then you came all the way up here and grabbed Pauga, you grabbed Carpenter, or let's say you weren't too sold on Pauga, you can come right here, grab AJ Fletcher. I think this makes a ton of sense. And in cash games, you're not too worried about ownership, of course, but leverage is not a bad thing, ever. Plenty of people are going to play Andrade, plenty of people are going to play Blanchfield, and plenty of people are going to stack the two, and if that fight goes under, the loser's not scoring very much, and you're up the creek without a paddle, you know what I mean? I think there's a very good chance that Lina Lansburg scores better than the loser of the main event. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you want to do a little lineup review, I will do that with you on KunathMMA.com. All you need to do is create a membership, choose the plan that works best for you, send me a direct message, send me a screenshot, and we can get to working on something. We'll cook up a lineup that works for you. Another feature on the website is the DFS strategy guide, and apart from Zubaira to Hugov getting absolutely robbed, that strategy guide was money last week. There's also the MMA DFS data model that a lot of you that are on the site already have told me that you absolutely loved, especially last week. We projected a lot of things pretty well. We're going to have projections this time around. We'll have projections every time. This is for ownership, significant strikes landed, projected fantasy score, things like that. I'll put that linked in the description as well as in a pinned comment. Go to the site, check it out, see what you like, tell me what you think, and you can choose the plan that works best for you, and I will talk to you there. Now we can move right along to tournament lineups. So these are your GPPs, these are your single entries, these are your MMEs, all that good stuff. We only have 11 fights, so there's not too many looks that I can give you that you probably haven't seen on your own this week, but I do think that a lot of people are probably going to come right here and grab Jessica Andrade. I think a lot of people are going to grab Askhabov sitting there at 8,300. I think that William Knight has the better skill set, more ways to win this fight. I think that Prachnio is just a movement merchant, but he doesn't have a whole lot of sting at the end of his shots, and he's not going to be able to get respect from William Knight, who's just going to throw 1-2 down the middle, and if he lands more than once, it's probably good night for Marcin Prachnio. For that reason, I do think a lot of people will go with William Knight. People want William Knight to be a thing. William Knight is fetch. Come down here, Jim Miller is going to be in a lot of people's lineups. I think at this point, a lot of people are going to come to Evan Elder. That way they can come all the way up here and grab whoever they want. Maybe they grab Clayton Carpenter. Now, at this point, maybe you don't need William Knight in your lineup now that we're looking at it. William Knight probably comes out. You might see people come all the way up here to Josh Pogues. They might not want to do that, though. They may come off of Carpenter, go down to somebody like Zach Pauga. That way you come off of Josh Pogues, and then you can come up here to AJ Fletcher. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw something like this in a lot of the contests that you're in this week. And this is not a bad lineup, not by any means. But this isn't the lineup that I'm going to trot out there personally. I much prefer the other side of the main event. Definitely prefer the other side of the main event. I know she's underdog. I know Andrade has that power, whatever. We beat it to death. But I do prefer the younger fighter, the underdog in this spot, and somebody who's had a full training camp. There are other people that I think fly under the radar this week. I do like having William Knight in the lineup. I think that coming down here to somebody like Jamal Emmers is a good spot, or Josh Parisian, or really both if you wanted to. And then you can come all the way up here and grab Carpenter. You can grab Mayra Bueno Silva and hope that she gets it done in the first or second round. You can come off of Mayra Bueno Silva. You can grab Zach Pauga. If I came off of William Knight, I'd probably come up here to Nazim at 8,600. That's another way that you can look at it this week. Another thing that I want to just see if we can do. I haven't tried this on my own, but I do want to see if we could do this. Can we get Carpenter, Pauga, and AJ Fletcher in the same lineup? 74.66 left over per fighter, and this is not just get these guys in a lineup and punt everybody else. This is still a lineup that we're going to have to like. So if I came down here, grab Josh Parisian, have 7,600 left over, and Erin Blanchfield 7,700. Well, then I guess I have to plug Erin Blanchfield in just to see what we have left. 7,500. I think a lot of people would just click this button here, and this is not a bad lineup. And you're kind of forced to play this, right? Unless you were to just say instead of Josh Parisian, go with OSP if you wanted to. But you're looking at a situation where if you play these three big favorites, you come down here, well, you're probably not going to play Lina Lansburg. She's up against it. You wouldn't play Ronderos considering you have the other guy in this fight, and you have the other guy in this fight. So the cheapest viable play is Josh Parisian, Jim Miller, and then OSP. So is it possible? Yes. Do I love it? No. If I plugged William Knight in, then you'd have to come down from one of these three guys. And honestly, the one that I like the least out of Fletcher, Pauga, and Carpenter is right up here at 9,300. This puts me right back down here. Grab somebody like Josh Parisian, 7,200, 8,600. We grab Nazim. I'm perfectly fine with that. Did I just make this lineup before? I'm very tired. I don't know if I made this before, but this is not bad. And I'll give you one more look that is going to be unique enough. Something that a lot of people probably don't dial up this week. There you go. There's the lineup nobody's playing this week. And maybe you'll want to enter that into the $1 Kunath winner take all contest that's on DraftKings. That's going to be linked right in the description and also in a pinned comment. You just hit the link, takes you to DraftKings, you pay $1, you're in a contest, it gets as big as it can, and then the winner gets to take everybody else's dollar. And maybe I should start shouting out winners on the channel. I think that's something that we'll do. We'll start shouting out the winners this week on the channel. So you're not only going to play for everybody's dollar, but bragging rights as well. And we'll finish up by looking at some prop opportunities with Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy, you could pick higher or lower, and it has a up to 20 times multiplier. This is available for all sports, football, basketball, NASCAR. I think CSGO is on there, League of Legends. They're covering all their bases. I think they have college hoops. They've got all kinds of stuff on there. And you can also play best ball, traditional fantasy. They have their own kind of draft system on there that's really cool. You get put in a pool with a couple of people. You draft kind of like you would do for fantasy football and your season long. It's a cool model. I like what they have. Now we can take a look at some of these, and we're going to be giving out some plays as well on KunathMMA.com. But when we look at these, I normally like to keep it to around 2 to 3. If you get any higher than that, I consider hitting the little insurance tab that they have down here. That way you don't need to get all of them correct. But some of the options on here that I really like this week, Philipe Lins over 46.5 significant strikes, I think is really solid. I also like AJ Fletcher to get higher than 1.5 takedowns this week. I have him projected for a little bit more than that. Those projections are on the website as well. And this is a good spot to land. I do think that if you wanted to start building out some different combinations, but start with these two, like these are your two stable legs, that makes a lot of sense to me. But if you want to just run with these two, 3x your money, that's like getting plus 300 odds on your sports book. Makes a ton of sense in my opinion, and these are two spots that I really, really like. The cool thing about this is it's not like DraftKings where if you lose the first fight of the night or you don't have the first fight of the night, there's a good chance you could be dead in the water. This is something that you could play throughout the night if you want to. This is something that you can make different combinations with different sports that you know about, and they also match your first deposit up to $100. So they're going to give you free play money. You could do what you want with it. I suggest being conservative. Get that free play money into your pocket. Make it become real money for you first. But if you want to send it on a 5-legger and get 20x on your money, that's cool with me too. You do you. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment something for the algorithm, and I wish you the best of luck this week.